The moment I knew I had been played, my world didn't shatter. It went cold. It was the kind of cold that starts in your gut and spreads through your veins until your fingertips feel like ice. I was sitting in my boss's office, the one with the ridiculously overpriced leather chair I always made fun of, and he had just delivered the final blow. But the story doesn't start there. To understand the cold, you have to understand the fire that came before it. For 7 years, I had poured my life into sterling marketing. I wasn't just an employee, I was a builder. When I started, we were a small hungry agency with 5 employees and a coffee machine that sounded like a dying lawnmower. I was the senior account manager, which was a fancy title for the guy who did everything. I courted the clients, I designed the campaigns, I wrote the copy. I stayed late, and I came in on weekends. Mr. Sterling, my boss, was the face of the company, the charismatic salesman, but I was the engine. I was the one who made the promises he sold a reality. And we were good. We grew. The dying lawnmower was replaced by a sleek espresso machine. The tiny office expanded into a whole floor. I built a portfolio of loyal clients who trusted me, not just the company name. They knew when I said I'd deliver, I would. My word was my bond, and in our business, that's more valuable than any marketing budget. Mr. Sterling treated me like a son, or so I thought. He'd clap me on the back, take me out for expensive dinners after a big win, and tell me, "Mark, you're the future of this company. One day, this will all be yours." I believed him. I was 32 years old. I was good at my job, and I was loyal. I thought that was the recipe for success. I was wrong. The beginning of the end came on a sunny Tuesday morning. Mr. Sterling called me into his office. He had a nervous energy about him I'd never seen before. "Mark," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite him, "I need your help with something. A special project." He then introduced me to Chloe. She was standing quietly by the window, looking out over the city. She was young, maybe 22 or 23, with wide, eager eyes that seemed to absorb everything. "This is my niece Chloe," he said. "She just graduated with a marketing degree. She's bright, but she's green. She knows the theory, but she needs to learn the real world. I want you to train her. Show her the ropes, everything you know." I'll admit, a part of me was hesitant. My knowledge, my client relationships, my methods, they were my trade secrets. They were the reason I was so valuable. But then I looked at Mr. Sterling, the man who'd been my mentor, and at Chloe, who looked at me with so much hopeful respect, and I caved. Loyalty. That was my weakness. "Of course, Mr. Sterling," I said, forcing a smile. "Happy to help." So it began. For the next 6 months, Chloe became my shadow. And I was a good teacher. I didn't hold anything back. I thought if she was going to be part of the team, she needed to be the best. I taught her how I build a client profile, how to find the emotional core of a brand, not just the data points. I walked her through my contact list, explaining the personalities of each client. "Mr. Henderson at Artisan Breads," I'd tell her. "He cares more about his family than his profit margin. Always ask about his daughter's soccer games before you talk business." Or, "Miss Chen at Tech Forward is all about efficiency. Have your numbers ready, be precise, and don't waste her time with small talk." I taught her my filing system, my proposal templates, my negotiation tactics. We worked late nights, fueled by pizza and coffee. I shared stories of my biggest failures and my greatest wins. I was, for all intents and purposes, downloading 7 years of my professional life, my very essence, into her brain. She was a quick study. She was smart. She was personable. And she seemed genuinely grateful. She'd often say, "Mark, I can't believe how much I'm learning. They don't teach any of this in college. You're a genius." I'd just laugh it off, but it felt good. I felt like a mentor, passing the torch. I just didn't realize I was being asked to build my own funeral pyre. The real test, the final exam, was Innovatech. Innovatech was the whale, a massive cutting-edge tech company that was looking for a new marketing firm. Landing them wouldn't just be a win, it would elevate sterling marketing to a whole new level. I had been pursuing their CEO, a brilliant but notoriously difficult man named Mr. Davison, for over a year. I'd sent him market analyses, met him for coffee, and slowly, painstakingly, built a foundation of trust. Finally, he agreed to a formal pitch. This was my masterpiece, the culmination of a year's work. I spent weeks preparing. This was the one, and I decided to bring Chloe in on it. "You've seen the whole process," I told her one evening as we were storyboarding the presentation. I want you to be in the room. This is the kind of experience you can't buy. She looked at me, her eyes shining. Really, Mark, you do that? Of course, I said. You're part of the team. I walked her through every slide, every talking point, every potential question Mr. Davison might ask, and how I planned to answer it. I gave her the complete final version of the pitch deck, on a USB drive. Study this, I said. Memorize it. Understand not just what we're saying, but why we're saying it. The day before the pitch, Mr. Sterling called me into his office. This is it, I thought. The big pre-game pep talk. I walked in, feeling the familiar buzz of anticipation, and that's when he dropped the bomb. Mark, he began, unable to meet my eyes. We're going to have to let you go. I stared at him. I thought it was a joke. A very, very bad joke. What? The pitch is tomorrow. What are you talking about? The company is going in a new direction, he said, reciting the words like a robot. We're restructuring. Your position has become redundant. Redundant? I was the position. I built the department. The blood drained from my face. Restructuring. What does that even mean, Mr. Sterling? I have the Innovatech pitch tomorrow. About that, he said, finally looking up. His eyes were cold, void of the warmth I thought I knew. Chloe will be handling the pitch. And then I saw her. She was standing in the corner of the room, just like she had been on the first day. But her expression wasn't hopeful or eager anymore. It was a mixture of pity, and something else, triumph. She was holding the USB drive I had given her. That's when the cold hit me. It all clicked into place. The special project, the 6 months of training, the mentoring. It wasn't about helping his niece. It was about replacing me. He had used my own loyalty, my own desire to teach, to groom my cheaper younger replacement, who also happened to be family. He had me build the weapon that would be used to execute me. You trained her, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You had me train my own replacement. Mr. Sterling had the decency to look away. It's just business, Mark. Business, I repeated, the word tasting like poison. After 7 years, that's all it is. He slid an envelope across the desk, a severance package, insultingly small. Security will escort you out, he said. I didn't touch the envelope. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. I looked at Chloe, who was now staring at her shoes. Good luck tomorrow, I said to her. My voice was flat, empty. You'll need it. Then I looked at Mr. Sterling. I didn't shout. I didn't cause a scene. I just said, you will regret this. And I walked out. Security did escort me out. As I walked past the desks of my colleagues, people I'd worked with for years, they just stared, confused. I carried my small box of personal items, my mind a blank, roaring void. The cold had completely taken over. But as I sat in my car, in the parking garage, the cold began to recede, and in its place, a single hot, sharp thought began to form. It wasn't a thought of despair. It was a thought of action. It's just business, he'd said. Okay, let's do business. My revenge didn't start with a bang. It started with a quiet, calculated thought. I didn't just give Chloe the pitch for Innovatech. I had given her my masterpiece. But every artist knows his work intimately. He knows the brushstrokes. He knows the composition. And he knows where the single hidden flaw is. The one that if you don't know it's there, will cause the entire canvas to unravel. During my year-long courtship of Mr. Davison, from Innovatech, I learned one crucial thing about him. He hated inefficiency, but what he despised even more was being made to look like a fool. He was a data-driven man, but he also had a massive ego. My pitch was built on a mountain of solid data, but I had intentionally built one part of it on a projection that was, to the naked eye, a huge strength. It was a market trend that looked incredibly promising. However, I had inside information from a friend at a financial data firm that this trend was a bubble, a big one, and it was set to pop, not in a year, not in 6 months, but within the next few weeks. A major industry player was about to release a product that would completely disrupt the market and make that trend obsolete overnight. I knew this. Mr. Davison didn't. And Chloe, with her textbook knowledge, would only see the promising numbers. She wouldn't have the experience or the contacts to know the cliff that was just beyond the beautiful view. My plan was simple. I was going to let her walk right off that cliff, and I was going to be at the bottom to catch the pieces. The first thing I did when I got home was not to mourn my job or look for a new one. I called Sarah Jenkins. Sarah was my former colleague from years ago. She had left Sterling Marketing to join our biggest and most respected rival, Apex Dynamics. She was a shark, just like me, but she valued loyalty and talent. We'd always kept in touch. "Sarah," I said, when she answered, "It's Mark. I need to talk to you. In person." We met at a quiet bar that evening. I laid it all out for her. The betrayal, the niece, the firing. She listened patiently, her expression hardening with every word. "That's low, Mark. Even for Sterling," she said when I finished. "He taught me it's just business, Sarah," I replied, taking a sip of my drink. "So, I have a business proposition for you. I'm going to bring Innovatech to Apex." She raised an eyebrow. "They're pitching to Sterling tomorrow. How are you going to do that? You don't work there anymore." "I know," I said with a thin smile. "That's my advantage. Sterling is about to present a strategy that contains a catastrophic flaw. A flaw only I know about. When it blows up in their face, I'm going to be the one with the solution. But I need a new home base. I need to be representing Apex when I do it." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with interest. She understood immediately. This wasn't just about revenge for me. It was a golden opportunity for her agency. "You're hired, Mark," she said without hesitation. "Welcome to Apex Dynamics. Let's go hunting." The next day was the longest day of my life. I sat in my new temporary office at Apex, a phone in my hand, waiting. I imagined the scene at the Innovatech headquarters. Chloe, confident and polished, walking Mr. Davison through my slides. Mr. Sterling, sitting beside her, beaming like a proud father. I pictured them getting to the key slide, the one about the market projection. I could almost hear Chloe's enthusiastic voice, explaining the massive growth potential. And then I imagined Mr. Davison, a man who built his empire by questioning everything, leaning forward. He'd have a question, a simple one. "This trend seems almost too good to be true. What are the risk factors?" Chloe wouldn't have an answer, not a real one. She would repeat the data on the slide. She would talk about the upward curve. She had the script, but she didn't know the subtext. She would be exposed, not as a fraud, but worse as inexperienced. And Mr. Davison would smell it. He'd feel that flicker of doubt. The seed would be planted. Around 3 p.m. My source from the data firm sent me a text. The news of the disruptive new product was about to break. The bubble was about to burst. It was time. I didn't call Mr. Davison's office. That would be too aggressive. Instead, I sent a carefully worded email to his personal address, an address it had taken me 6 months to get. The subject line was simple: a secondary perspective on the X market trend. The email was short and professional. "Dear Mr. Davison, it was a pleasure getting to know you over this past year. I know you saw a presentation today regarding a new marketing strategy. I have recently moved to Apex Dynamics, and in my new role, I've come across some critical, time-sensitive information regarding the market projections central to that strategy. I believe there is a significant unforeseen risk that was not addressed. More importantly, there is a much greater opportunity if you pivot correctly. If you are interested in a 5-minute conversation about safeguarding your upcoming campaign, please let me know. Sincerely, Mark." I didn't badmouth Sterling Marketing. I didn't mention Chloe or my firing. I just presented myself as a professional with crucial information. I was offering value. I was solving a problem he didn't even know he had for sure yet. I hit send, and I waited. The silence was deafening. Every minute felt like an hour. Then, at 4:15 p.m., my phone rang. The caller ID was a private number. My heart hammered in my chest. "Mark." The voice was sharp, impatient. It was Davison. "Mr. Davison, thank you for calling," I said, my voice steady and calm. "I have 2 minutes," he snapped. "What is this about?" "It's about the evergreen trend," I said, using the code name from my own presentation. "The data is solid, but the context is about to change, drastically. A company called Nexuses is announcing a product tomorrow morning that will render that entire ecosystem obsolete." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. He had just been sold a strategy based on a dying horse. He had almost been made a fool. "How do you know this?" he asked, his tone shifting from impatient to intensely focused. "It's my job to know things like this, sir," I replied. And my job is to make sure my clients are always 10 steps ahead of the curve, not one step behind it. The team that pitched to me today, he said slowly. They didn't mention this. Perhaps they weren't aware, I said, letting the implication hang in the air. Inexperience. Lack of foresight. I see, he said. There was another long pause. I'm at my downtown club. Can you be here in 20 minutes? I'm already on my way, I lied, grabbing my briefcase and jacket. The meeting at the club was surreal. I walked Mr. Davison through the impending market shift. I didn't have a flashy presentation, just a tablet with the raw data, and a clear, concise explanation. Then I showed him my new plan. A plan I had developed in the last 24 hours. A pivot. It was agile, aggressive, and it capitalized on the disruption that was about to happen. It turned a massive risk into an even bigger opportunity. He listened, not saying a word. When I was done, he just stared at me for a full minute. Sterling Marketing's proposal was elegant, he said finally. Yours is ruthless. I like ruthless. It's safe. He stood up and extended his hand. Send over the contract from Apex. We start Monday. Just like that it was done. I had won, but I was just getting started. Mr. Sterling's mistake wasn't just firing me. His mistake was thinking the Innovatech account was the only thing of value I possessed. He didn't understand that my true value wasn't in a single pitch. It was in the years of relationships I had built. It was in the trust I had earned with every single client in my portfolio. And I had trained Chloe on every single one of them. But here's the second twist. The part of the plan that was even colder and more calculated than the Innovatech play. When I was creating the handover documents for Chloe, the detailed files on every client, I did something very specific. For each major client I embedded a time bomb. Not a flaw in a pitch, but a subtle misunderstanding of their core needs. For Mr. Henderson at Artisan Breads, who valued family above all, I changed his contact notes. I removed the part about asking after his daughter, and replaced it with a note saying, focus on Q3 profit projections. He is purely numbers driven. Chloe, following my guide, would walk into her first meeting with him, and come off as cold and corporate, a fatal error. For Miss Chen at Tech Forward, who valued ruthless efficiency, I did the opposite. My note for her read, prefers a long conversational warm-up. Build a strong personal rapport before discussing business. Chloe would try to engage in small talk, wasting the precious time of a woman who had none to spare. I did this for my top 6 clients. I laid a series of perfectly tailored social and professional traps, each designed to make Chloe, and by extension Sterling Marketing, look incompetent and out of touch. They weren't lies that could be easily discovered. They were subtle misdirections of strategy and personality. Over the next 2 months from my new desk at Apex Dynamics, I watched the dominoes fall. My first call was to Mr. Henderson. I waited a week after Chloe was scheduled to have her introductory meeting with him. Mark, good to hear from you, he said warmly. I was sorry to hear you left Sterling. Things feel a bit different over there now. Oh, I asked innocently. How so? That new girl Chloe. She's a sharp kid, but she's all business. Didn't even ask about Sarah's team making it to the state finals, he said, a note of disappointment in his voice. Well, Mr. Henderson, you know I'll always be your first call when you want to talk about soccer or marketing, I said with a laugh. In fact, I have an idea for a Father's Day campaign that I think you'll love. He moved his account to Apex the following week. One by one I made the calls. Each time, I heard a similar story. Chloe was trying hard, but she kept misreading the room. She was following my notes, my poisoned instructions, to the letter. She was alienating the very people I had spent years making feel understood. The final blow was a call I received late one Friday afternoon. It was from an unlisted number. I answered. You snake, a voice hissed. It was Mr. Sterling. He sounded ragged, desperate. You took them all. Artisan Breads, Tech Forward, Visionary Optics, they're all gone. You ruined me. I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window of my new larger office at Apex. I had been promoted. I was now vice president of account strategy. I didn't do anything, Mr. Sterling, I said calmly. I just went into business for myself. You taught me how. It's just business, remember? She was my niece, he yelled. My family. And I was like a son, wasn't I? I replied, the question hanging in the air. You used my loyalty to break me. You thought you could just swap me out, that I was a replaceable part. You were wrong. The relationships, the trust, that was mine. It never belonged to the company. And when I left, it came with me. What am I supposed to do? He whispered. His voice was broken. I don't know, I said. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of something. Not pity, but a sad sense of finality. Maybe you should have thought of that before you decided my 7 years of loyalty were redundant. I heard a choked sound, and then I hung up the phone. I never heard from him or Chloe again. A few months later, I read that Sterling Marketing had been acquired by a larger impersonal conglomerate for pennies on the dollar. It was effectively erased. Its name and legacy gone. My revenge was complete. But sitting there, I didn't feel the elation I expected. I didn't feel like a triumphant hero. I just felt quiet. I had played the game, and I had won. But the game itself was ugly. I learned that loyalty, in the wrong hands, is a liability. I learned that trust should be earned, not given freely. I built a new life at Apex. I built a new team, and I lead them differently. I value their talent, but I also respect their lives. I teach them to be sharks, yes, but I also teach them to be loyal to each other, to have each other's backs, because a team that trusts each other is unbreakable. My old boss replaced me with his niece after I trained her, so I gave her first, and biggest, client to our rival. Then I took all the rest. He thought he was playing chess, but he didn't realize I was the one who had designed the board. And in the end, I wasn't just taking my clients back, I was taking back my life, my career, and my self-respect. It wasn't just revenge, it was a hostile takeover of my own destiny. And it was the best business decision I ever made. Thank you for listening to my story. It's a harsh reminder that sometimes the people you trust the most can be the ones to hurt you the deepest. But it's also a story about taking back your power. If you've ever felt betrayed or underestimated, maybe you can relate. What do you think? Was my revenge justified? Or did I go too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thanks again for watching.